all of your members who deserve recognition. Okay, and I'm going to go through, this is the part of the list that I don't want to mess up, but I want to go through and thank specifically some people, and I want you to know just how engaged your chapter is in the overall AAAE organization and the time that they put into the time and the effort into that relationship. And so what I would like to do is to start out and recognize, you know who they are, but I'm going to do it anyway. Recognize your chapter officers because they are critical to the executive committee, to the staff. We have a chapter officers meeting every year in March in Alexandria, and they come, they deliver your message, they work with us to craft how we can make things better for the chapter as well as for the national organization. So, without further ado, and hold your applause because I got a lot of names to read and this is going to take forever if you clap for every one of them. Your President, Gary Mascaro, First Vice President, John Stout, Second Vice President, Jonathan Hudson, and of course your immediate past President, Richard Smith. Obviously, I would be sadly remiss and would be beat profusely about my head and shoulders if I didn't recognize my cohort in crime on the executive committee, Mr. Todd Hauptli, who is a longtime member of your chapter. We have members of your chapter involved in the board of directors, and so I will go through those. Danette Bewley, Tucson, Arizona. If you just raise your hand, if you're here. John Fauché, he's an excellent golfer, let me tell you. Santa Rosa, California. Scott Malta, Atwater, California, and of course, Todd Hauptli. Past chairs from AAAE from your chapter, Bonnie Allen in Tucson, and Jim Bennett in Phoenix, Arizona. Members of the Policy Review Committee from your chapter, Bonnie Allen, Jim Bennett, Deborah Flint, Los Angeles, Gary Mascaro, Marilee Mora, Reno, Nevada, and Rosemary Vasiliadis with Las Vegas, Nevada. Leaders of AAA Committee from the Southwest Chapter. Operations, Safety, Planning, and Emergency Management, Dean Schultz from Reno. He is a co-vice chair. Facilities, Technical Services Committee, Stephanie Yeager, San Francisco. She is vice chair. Bonnie Allen, Tucson, is chair of the International Association of Airport Executives. Corey Nystrom, vice chair of the General Aviation Airports Committee. Industrial Aviation, Military Relations, Gladys Wiggins, Yuma, Arizona, she's vice chair. Foundation, Marilee Mora, and the 2018 annual conference, Kim Becker, San Diego. And then last but not least, I talked about the importance of our corporate committee. Y'all have both reps of the corporate committee here, the chair and vice chair. Wonderful people, good members. Mr. Mark Sapp is chair, John Fauché is vice chair. So as you can see, you have a tremendous amount of engagement in the national organization. And please join me in giving all of them, whether they're here or not, a round of applause. So as I close, yes, Gary, I'm going to close. I know. He told me to give him a heads up because he said sometimes I fall asleep while you're talking. The year ahead poses challenges. We all know that. It's always been a challenging industry, at least for as long as I can remember now. The year ahead poses challenges, but I am thoroughly convinced that with the strength of our chapters, with the strength of our staff, with the wonderful people that we have on your executive committee, that together we have the strategy, the determination, the intelligence to make this industry a bigger and better success. So please, when asked, join. If you're not active or maybe not as active as you think you could be, please do so, because that is how you get the most value, not only out of your chapter, but out of your national organization. So please get engaged if you're not. I thank you for your time. It is now my pleasure to turn over the microphone to our President and CEO, I'm going to try to do like Gary did, Mr. Todd Hauptli, or as the Colonel says, howdy, friends.
Well, good morning. I was kind of looking over this way to see if Supervisor Steele was here yet. She's not, so just as a warning for you, if she rolls in, I'm going to stop down and bow to the electeds and let her come up and do her thing, and then I'll resume what I'm sure will be an enthralling presentation this morning for all of you. Thank you all for the chance to be here. I really appreciate it. So some of you know this and some of you don't. Some of you would care and others couldn't care less, and that's fine. I grew up in Southern California. This is home for me. I grew up in South Pasadena and San Marino. I went to Santa Barbara. Go Gauchos, thank you. Orpid and I, go Gauchos. My kid, my oldest son, is an Aztec, San Diego State. So this is, it's happy time to be coming back, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Chairman Brockman, for your very nice comments about the AAAE team, working hard back in Washington on behalf of all of your interests. We're trying. Please don't hold us accountable for all the crazy stuff that's going on in Washington. Like how I edited myself by the use of the word stuff. But we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll try and talk as little about the legislative process as possible this morning, simply because it's so depressing. But I would like to talk a little bit about AAAE in 2017. But just a couple more hellos and how are you this morning. Scott mentioned it, but Todd McNamee, your representative on the executive committee, doing a fantastic job. Observers might note that it took a while for somebody from the Southwest chapter to get back on the AAAE Executive Committee. It was clearly worth the wait. He's doing a terrific job on your behalf, so let's give it up for McNamee. He also has about the nicest family that you can imagine. And then we also just wanted to say Barry Rondinella, our host this time around. Barry, thank you, appreciate it. Doing a great job down here under, you know, not always perfect conditions, but the airport's great, running fantastic, lots of amazing air service, and what a great night that was last night, so thank you for that. Yes. And, I mean, we got to give it up for Mascaro. Come on, he did a great job. Now, there's still, to be clear, there's still 2 days he could screw this up. But, you know, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just not clear if it's a train coming, brother. And then we're happy for John Stout coming in next. Where's John? I saw him earlier this morning. There he is over there. You're going to have a fun ride and look forward to working with you in the year ahead more closely than we already have. All right, AAAE 2017, service, innovation, and results. You've heard me talk about this before. It's been a big focus for us over the past couple of years, trying to make sure that we provide the best service we possibly can. You know, when I took over, I was looking about trying to figure out how we could innovate, how we could come up with some new programs and some new ideas, and we'll talk about that as well. And then at the end of the day, talk is great, but talk is cheap. What do you do? What are the results? A big focus over the past couple of years with the executive committee with me has also been, what do we do to enhance benefits for the membership? I start with the premise that being a member at AAA is a screaming good deal for $275 a year for an individual and $850 for a corporation. It's a great deal, but how can we keep making it better and better? And so we focused hard on trying to provide new benefits to the members. You know, some of the self-interested sorts of things from my perspective was I wanted to try and do more with the chapters and give more to the chapters, be a better partner with the chapters. It was my sense that over the years we developed this kind of relationship where the mothership was kind of doing this all the time, saying, come on, help us, give us some money, give us some money. And I wanted to try and figure out how we could give back. And so one of the things that we've done is we've made sure that we've sponsored the chapter annual conferences, and this year we doubled that sponsorship. So to me, I hope that matters to you guys. It matters to me. I hope that you're seeing a very responsive organization, a professional organization that's really committed to trying to be helpful where we can. We've done things like scholarships for people to attend the annual conference in the NAC. We had 5 folks come to Long Beach that otherwise would not have been able to attend our annual conference, and we'll have another 5 that'll come to Las Vegas for the NAC, and we're excited about that. And that's a full ride. Airfare, hotel, registration for folks that otherwise wouldn't have the support in their communities or their airports to attend. And we think that will create a stickier relationship, and who knows, maybe one day not too far down the road, somebody who came to our annual conference on a scholarship may sit on the board of directors of the organization, and we'll be able to point back to that moment that they came. And so we're excited about that. Credits for for accredited members with our online store and registration, just those kinds of things that we are trying to do that say, hey, we don't have shareholders to reward like you do in a for-profit corporation. We have members to reward. And so we're always looking to try and figure out how we can deliver more for the membership. So if you have other ideas, we go through a survey that we do each year, and I read through every single comment. We had 700 people respond to the survey, and I read every single comment, every single word of those 700 survey responses, trying to glean from that what we can keep doing better and how we can try and provide better service for the membership. So if you have suggestions or observations, please hit me while I'm still here, and if not, shoot me a note. Some of these benefits that we're rolling out each year are the result of direct feedback that we've received from all of you across the country. So focused on that. Innovation, just want to say a word or two about that. It was my view that when for a while, AAA got a little complacent in our approach on some of our business operations, and we hadn't kind of tweaked some of our service offerings in a while, and that we needed to try and really keep up with what was going on in the world around us. So we've worked very hard over the past couple years to provide new and improved products and services. I don't know, Kyle Herbeck, are you in the room? Yeah, there he is. So Kyle Herbeck is in the room here. If you don't know Kyle, he came to us, AAAE, from Signature Flight Support, stolen from Mary Miller. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. She was mad at me for a little bit, but we got over it. And Kyle's doing a great job, and he's been singing the song of our interactive employee training systems, which we've updated, and there's mobility options. We've taken it in a brand new direction, and so if that's something that you're worried about in your airports in terms of training, Kyle's the guy to see. We're doing a lot of interesting things there. I see Oris Dunham's in the house. Oris was in Seattle with us for our Innovation Forum a few weeks ago. It's the 3rd one of these that we've done. First one in San Francisco, then in Silicon Valley, and then Seattle. And Oris, we appreciate you participating and being there with us. We bring together a bunch of companies that are either new to market or thinking that they can sell into the airport space, or are looking over the horizon on issues that we're facing. And we bring a lot of airport folks together who have the charge of trying to figure out what's next or how to deal with tricky operational issues in their facilities. And it ends up being a really good couple of days worth of discussions. And we've had some interesting tie-ups and partnerships that have come as a result of that over the past couple of years. So we're excited about that as well. Our business model at AAAE is unusual, and some of you have heard me talk about this over the past couple years. Low dues, very entrepreneurial. We try and figure out how to, provide products and services in the marketplace that people consume, and then we take the profit from that. We don't bank that or anything. We're a nonprofit. We turn around and figure out how to try and provide more for the members. So a couple of stats that I'm proud of. The foundation, which for many years Oris Dunham was the chair of the foundation committee, and he and his beautiful bride Sylvia have been incredibly, remarkably supportive of the foundation, and thank you, Oris, for that. We appreciate that very much. In 2013, the foundation gave out $154,000 worth of scholarships, and that's great. They were about $1,400 a piece. And this year, 2017, we'll give out $359,000 in scholarships. The ones that were $1,400 a piece are now just under $2,600 a piece. So the growth rate on that's pretty good. And that's a direct result of the fact that we've been able to do well as an association and plow it back into the membership in a demonstrable way that I hope. Are there people in the room here who've either benefited directly or have sons and daughters that have? Okay, excellent. So that's something that we're real proud of. We created a couple years ago a Women in Aviation Scholarship Program. We now, earlier this year, we held a big fundraising luncheon, raised almost $188,000 for that, netted about $155,000 from that. As a result, we now offer two, not one, but two $5,000 a year scholarships for that program, and we're real excited about that and continue to try and build momentum for that. I talked about some of the member benefits. Let me just talk a little bit about the financial results, because I've sort of teased on that a little bit. Again, 2013, top line revenue for the association, $33 million. And for the folks who went through the process of trying to figure out who was coming after Barkley, I raised my hand and said, pick me, because I want to turn AAAE into a $100 million a year organization by 2028, our centennial anniversary, the 100th anniversary of AAAE, $100 million a year by 2028. And everybody kind of politely nodded and patted me on the head and said, go get him, Tiger. 2013, we were at $33 million a year with a net income of, you know, $150,000 or $200,000 a year, very thin margin. This year, well, let's do last year, 2016, last year, 3 years in, $66 million, doubled the top line revenue, more than doubled, almost tripled for those keeping count, the net income for the year in 3-year period of time. This year, 2017, we're on track to hit $78 million. If we have a really good last part of the year, we could flirt with $80 million. And so we're very excited about the growth of the organization. And growth for the sake of growth is not that, it's interesting, but it's not that critical. Growth with a purpose is what I like to talk about, because that allows us to do more for all of you. And that's what the AAAE team is all about, really trying to provide great responsive service with a very professional staff, dedicated to trying to do as much as we can for all of you. I'll finish up just by talking a little bit about Washington. Speaking of trying to figure out how to do as much as we can for you, really challenging operating environment in Washington right now. Trying to figure out how to extract resource. I used to tell people, they'd ask what your job was, because I was the lobbyist for AAAE for 22 years. And admitting that you were a lobbyist was, you know, sort of negative. So occasionally somebody on an airplane or whatever would say, what do you do for a living? I'd say, well, I'm an extraction specialist. And so they thought I was a dentist, and I thought that was fine. That was better than admitting that I was a lobbyist. But trying to figure out how to extract resources from Washington has become incredibly challenging. But you've got a great team led by Joel Bacon, Brad Van Dam, Stephanie Gupta, Colleen Chamberlain, Melissa Sabatine. The group that we've got on advocacy issues, whether that's regulatory or legislative, whether that's security, dealing with the FAA, dealing with Capitol Hill. They're a great, great team. and they're working really hard in difficult operating environment, trying to deliver for all of you. So where are we? Well, FAA reauthorization has been the issue that people have obviously focused on a lot this year. The countdown clock is at, I believe, 68 days until the end of September, when the current program expires. And there's been a lot of, drum and strang over trying to get the House and Senate to reauthorize the programs. It does not appear at the moment that the House will be able to get a bill to the floor before they leave on Friday for their, or Thursday night, before they leave for their break for the summer. It is still technically possible, but the floor schedule is crowding up. It doesn't look like Chairman Schuster has the votes that he needs to get that bill up and on the floor. So the likely scenario, and I could be wrong on this, but the likely scenario is that doesn't happen. They leave. The House, when they come back in September, will be put in a position where they'll do an extension of some sort. Whether it's a short one to try and keep working on this, or a longer one because they're just going to throw up their hands and give up, we'll see. The Senate also has a bill that they've been working on. It's out of committee, but it doesn't look like it will get brought to the floor before the break. The Senate's in a little bit longer than the House, but they've got other issues that they're dealing with. I'm going to stop down for a minute, come back up after Supervisor Steele works her magic, and I'll talk a little bit more about the legislative process and then answer a couple questions. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn it over to Gary Mascaro, who is going to introduce our speaker.
We're watching and focusing on you, so we're so glad to have you. I'd like to introduce Chairwoman of the Orange County Board of Supervisors, Michelle Steele.
Sorry for your interruption. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Orange County. This is the most beautiful county in the, I think, whole country. If somebody's gonna boo, I know that, you came from, you think that it's the most beautiful, but, we have a great place here. We have a long history in aviation. 1923, Eddie Martin started, and he just opened the airport in Orange County with flying school on dirt. Now we have more than 10 million passengers we serve every year. And we have Barry just came in 2 years ago, and Barry Randorella and his leadership and his staff, they are doing a great job. We have very close the relationship with the community, that we work very closely because we are inside middle of the community itself and people living there. So we have a lot of complaints. Barry knows how to handle, and we talk and we do a lot of different things. So since 1923, we grew not just domestic flights, but we have a lot of international flights in and out, and we are doing a great job here. While you're visiting Orange County, you see the weather, right? It's the most beautiful place in the whole world. And we have beautiful beaches from Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, and go down to Dana Point. And then at the same time, we have a beautiful shopping center. You're middle of it, Fashion Island and South Coast Plaza. And then we have theme parks, Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm and others. So enjoy here, and then whatever you need. I came from Korea, and I was born in Korea and raised in Japan, and I came here to go to college, and I ended up marrying to my husband, so I ended up stuck here in America. But most beautiful county here, and only first generation person like me can get elected is in America. That can happen, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful that you all are here, that learning more about Orange County and Orange County Airport, and we are doing a great job here. So whatever you need, let us know that we're gonna support you and we're gonna work together. So sorry about this all mess, but thank you very much all coming, and welcome to Orange County. Thank you.
English is better than mine. She's first generation. That sucks. Thank you very much, Supervisor. And echo the comments about the great job that Barry's doing down here. So I was sort of just starting to talk about the Senate. They're working, again, it would certainly appear that we're headed, this is not revelatory, but we're heading to another extension. It's been frustrating dealing with our number one issue that we're trying to get, a passenger facility charge increase in the House. It's been challenging. Chairman Schuster has been less interested in that issue and very much focused on an air traffic control corporation. That has divided the House pretty, I was going to say evenly, but I'm not even sure it's even. It's divided the House, and they've been trying for the past week and a half or so to get vote counts to try and figure out in the House whether they've got enough votes to push forward on this. What makes it different this time around than last time he tried it is this time around you have President Trump and the Trump administration that have both signaled a support for this issue. And you also have Speaker Ryan, the Speaker of the House, who has indicated support for that. Despite that difference and that additional horsepower, if you will, behind the effort, it hasn't yielded, at least to date, a demonstrably increased level of support for the effort. The general aviation community remains very skeptical of that, and the votes just haven't been there. In the Senate, it was never really contemplated that the Senate was going to put that in their bill. The ranking member on the Democratic side, Bill Nelson of Florida, made it very clear from the beginning he had no interest in that. The chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, John Thune, it's interesting to see how Thune handles it. He's from South Dakota, which is a big general aviation bastion on the one hand. And on the other hand, I think philosophically he's certainly willing to entertain that. But he hasn't been willing to sort of fight hard for it. He's kind of waited to see where the votes are. Shocking that a politician would sort of wait to see where the votes are. No offense intended. To see where that ends up. But so that's kind of the state of play for FAA reauthorization. We did 23 extensions last time around. Hopefully we don't go through that again. My fear is that these members of Congress will do, 7 or 8 extensions and congratulate themselves on what a great job they did this time around compared to last time. But we'll have to watch that. The Senate Appropriations Subcommittee that handles funding for the FAA is meeting tomorrow in subcommittee and full committee on Thursday. And I'd watch your emails. For those of you who get the alerts from us, watch that space pretty carefully today and tomorrow, because there's some stuff there that I think will be helpful that we would need to potentially engage on with your congressional delegations. So watch that space. And that's kind of the lay of the land on reauthorization, appropriations. There's security bills that Congress is dealing with, but it's just really hard to get anything passed in Washington right now. You've seen it's a lot easier to get something killed, and it's a lot easier to get something extended than it is to actually do anything terribly meaningful back there at the moment. So that's the frustrating environment that we find ourselves in, because again, the Joels and the Brads and the Stephanies and the Todds of the world are all trying to figure out how to deliver for you, how to get results. And it's a challenging time to deliver demonstrable results in Washington. But the one thing I will pledge is that nobody will work harder than our crew to try on that. We have a few minutes, and Gary told me to use them. So I was just going to ask if there were questions for either Chair Brockman or I. Yeah, oh, look at that, Dinger. How well trained you are. You're not the least bit rusty, anything. This is great. Bring it on, brother.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to come across the country and give the message, even if some of it's not great. So I appreciate that. It's always, I definitely miss being at the AAAE board meetings and everything, but the staff works so hard. But talk a little bit about the collaboration with ACI. We didn't really get into that, and how I just think it's imperative that the two organizations just work together as much as possible, trying to have a similar message.
Yep. Thanks for the question. I think he's exactly right. Wait, let's give it up one more time for the supervisor. Thank you, Supervisor Steele. It's really, really important. You know, if you hit the rewind button about 4 years ago, two organizations were doing a bunch of this, and it was not good for the industry. And we had sort of separate voices going on, and the staffs were clashing. The leadership was, you know, not happy. It just wasn't going very well. And over the past couple years, we've worked very hard to try and fix that. I keep talking about him, but he keeps doing things that warrant it. Oris Dunham here, whatever that was, 4 or 5 years ago, the Dunham Commission, he and Elaine Roberts actually looked at what it would take to try and put the two groups together. And while we ended up not really going down that path, what we did decide to do is work very collaboratively in Washington on policy issues and make sure to the highest extent possible we're speaking with a single voice in Washington. And over the past 3 years, I give Kevin Burke, the ACI president, a lot of credit, and the ACI Executive Committee and the AAAE Executive Committee with Brothers McNamee and Brockman and their brethren have worked very hard to try and make sure we speak with a single voice. So it is really important to do. We're working hard to do that. We had a little blip on the radar screen last week. The ACI Executive Committee decided they wanted to actively oppose the House Reauthorization bill because it didn't include a PFC increase. And you know, the AAA Executive Committee understands that, but our approach has been we want to keep working to improve the legislation, so we didn't take a position actively opposing. It's the first time in the past couple years where we've had a little bit of a difference, a little hiccup in how we face Washington. You had one group saying they wanted to actively oppose, and the other ones say, well, we don't really like the bill that much, but we want to keep working to make it better. But we're still in the same zip code, and we weren't in the same zip code for a while. So thank you for the question. Questions, comments, suggestions? Oh, the lovely and talented, until I don't like her question, Mary Miller. Wait a minute, Witso's going to try and get up here. Everybody deserves to hear the dulcet tones of Mary Miller.
Wow. You were talking about the significant odds that we will see an extension on FAA reauthorization. With the elections next year, do you think that'll play a role in the date or the length of the extension? And if so, what is your thought? Will they try and have the vote prior to the election or post-election?
Yeah, so super good question. Crystal ball's right here, just below the line of sight for all of you. I'm looking at it now. Sadly, I don't know. I think if it were up to Chairman Thune, they'd be perfectly content to extend the program out for a longer period of time. If you're Chairman Schuster, there's a clock running in the background, and he's got 18 months, it's going to be 17 months here in a week, that he's still the chairman of the committee. And he's doggedly pursuing this one policy objective, which is to try and figure out how to get this corporatized system of air traffic control in place. The longer the extension, the less leverage he has in trying to get there. And so my belief is that the House will push for a shorter extension. The Senate would probably be willing to look at a longer extension, and we'll have to see how all that shakes out. If for some reason Schuster says, God, I'm sick of this, I've tried and I didn't get anywhere, I had the president and the White House and the speaker trying and I still can't get there. If he sort of threw up his hands and said, okay, forget it, I'm done with that, you could probably actually get a multi-year bill done. Maybe not by the end of September, but before the end of the year. I just don't think that's likely. I think he's got so much invested in this that he's going to keep trying to leave the window open to try and get a deal on that. Great question. Wish I knew the real answer. Other questions, comments? We've got 5 minutes. If somebody didn't ask a question, Mascaro says I have to sing. None of you want that. None of you want that. Comments, suggestions, things that we could do. Thank you. Thank you. Score two for team signature on questions.
Jim Hopkins with Signature Flight Support. Question for you. Can you expand on AAAE's position on privatization?
Yes, I can. Are there press in the room? Hearing none. So AAA's position on air traffic control modernization is that we don't have a position. What we do have are principles that we think anybody that's pursuing that has to make sure and uphold. Making sure there's adequate revenue stream that's protected to cover the airport improvement program. Making sure that airports have a voice in the decisions that are made by any new governance structure, things like that. We have purposefully not gotten in the middle of that food fight for a couple of reasons, strategic and tactical in nature. And so that hasn't been our primary focus. And so while that has been a big food fight in Washington, most of the commercial airlines on one side, most of the general aviation community and business aviation community on the other side, I can assure you both sides leaning on us hard to try and get us to take their side in that fight. We've been really focused on trying to get more resources for airports, trying to deal with modernization on the ground, and leave that kind of food fight on the governance structure to others, which has been very frustrating to some folks in Washington that would have us declare one way or the other on that. But I'll take some of the blame on that. Been around Washington a long time, and you know, as soon as you sort of declare one side or the other, you've lost whatever leverage you've got in the equation. So we're trying to maximize whatever little leverage we have left in the equation to see if there's a deal to be made as things get closer to the end of the line. My experience tells me that we're not going to get a multi-year bill done this year, that we're going to be at this for a while, and that will be measured certainly in weeks, probably in months, and potentially in years. And so that's kind of where we are. Hope that helps, Jim. Yes, sir.
Well, you touched on it, so now. Hold on a second.
Wait. I think the jury's still out as to whether or not we really hear your voice, but.
So, you touched on it a little bit. The 18 months, the deal to be made, you've already got the White House leaning for it, you've got the Speaker of the House leaning for it. So, that little bit of leverage we have, is now the time to sit down and try and strike some sort of deal that benefits airports. They need so many more votes to get the thing done.
Potentially. It's a great question. And I'm not sure the mic was really on. The sort of heart of the question is, isn't now the time to try and cut the deal? And it potentially is, but again, I don't think so, because I don't think they're going to get to it, right? So today's Monday. They've got the schedule for the week in the House already laid out, and it's gotten heavier now that they've got Russian sanctions agreement that they're going to try and bring that up before the recess, along with a minibus on the appropriations bill. So I don't think the House is going to do it this week. I don't think the Senate's going to do it this week or next. So we're kind of in that, and there's no time for them to do a big multi-year bill when they come back in September. So there's going to be another extension. So a good question, sort of a follow-on to your question is, okay, not now, Hauptli, but what about September? And maybe that's the time if people really are going to come together. I just don't think it's still there. I think we're going to be fighting this fight 6 months from now, or 9 months from now, or 12 months from now. Okay, it is 9:20. Mercifully for all of you, my time has expired. Thank you all very much. Appreciate the chance to be here.
Let's give another hand to our wonderful folks that came up here, Mr. Hauptli, Mr. Brockman, and the chairwoman. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, couple housekeeping items, couple things I want to update you, and then I'm going to have the pleasure of introducing our keynote this morning. First and foremost, how many first-time attendees do we have here? And if so, raise your hand. Wow, that's quite a bit. Awesome, fantastic. Welcome, thank you. So for all you folks that have been coming to this conference since the dawn of time, and I can see a few of you there, so please introduce yourself and welcome to the SWAAAE family, because make them feel a little more comfortable, because this truly is a family. Other item is, everybody have a cell phone, right? Okay. Everybody download the app that we have for the schedule. If you have not, please do so. One of the benefits that Mr. Hauptli was talking about that AAA did is to share their app with us during the summer conference. So it was a no cost to us. We had to provide them the schedule, and they updated it for us. All of the bios are on there, so we're not reading bios, but we encourage you to take a look at the bios if you have some questions and such. So please make sure you download the app. Also, the other reason why I said stand by for the mic is we are live streaming on Facebook Live as well, and folks are watching this as we're doing this right this second, and if we have questions and you don't have a microphone, they won't be able to hear it in their computers or wherever they're at all over the country or the world. So we're very excited to do that. We're very unique in this chapter. No other chapter has that ability to do so, and we try to sell that a lot, especially for our folks in the great state of Hawaii who cannot make it out here. That is part of our chapter. So we're hoping that they are streaming right now and doing well. And I see a bubble thing. Oh, okay, I don't have my glasses on, okay. Business cards. You guys want some cool gifts and prizes? Meet those folks in the back and drop your business cards, and we will go ahead and issue prizes as well. And I believe that is it for the housekeeping items, and I think we're going to go ahead and roll into our next speaker. If the next speaker is here. Fantastic. Good morning. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce Mr. Jim Doyle, General Manager of the Disneyland Resort. Mr. Doyle, welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Excellent. Oh, great response. I love it. So I have the opportunity of meeting you here this morning, and I cannot be more honored. I will tell you, after sitting and listening for the last 20 or 30 minutes, we've heard a lot about legislature and finances and the focus of the industry, and I'm going to talk to you about Mickey Mouse. Just quickly, a show of hands. Who's been to Disneyland? Okay, good. So we have a lot of fans in the audience. Excellent. So this will be a little easier. I have taken the time to create a little story for you. And truthfully, that's what we do best at Walt Disney, is we tell stories. I'm going to tell you a little bit first about our love affair with the aviation industry, and really primarily Walt's love affair with the aviation industry. And then talk to you a little bit about how we